that the notice of this meeting's been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This evening, our invocation, I believe, is going to be offered by our FCA student. So, Ms. Wynn, can you help us out, please?
Yes. So we are going to start. Got it. Okay, there we go. We are going to start this evening with an invocation from Blakely Thompson. She is a 7th grader at Godley Middle School, and she is in our Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Please bow your heads while I open in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for gathering us here today. We are so thankful for our ability to have FCA in our schools and being able to glorify God in school. We are also so thankful to be a part of the school district that allows the ability to put God first. We thank you for the opportunity to be recognized here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. And next we will offer our pledges, and I believe our team's going to help us again.
Okay, this group is a mixture of National Junior Honor Society and FCA, and they'll do this as a group.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. I pledge the Texas flag and pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible. Now for your...
No, we don't need them on this side. That's our routine.
Thank you, students, for helping us both in the invocation and the pledges tonight. Next on the agenda, we have recognition.
Mr. Flood, we hunted on all of them, right? None of our groups were able to show up today. Where's Mr. Flood? Yes? Okay. So we'll move into school board recognition. January is School Board Recognition Month, so we would like to take a moment to honor our school board. These guys support our community in so many ways. They attend events, games, shows, concerts. They volunteer in the booster clubs, PTOs, concession stands. They scoop poop out in the ag barn. They do about everything, and we really appreciate them. They hold us to high standards, but at the same time partner with us. They give us patience and grace, their positivity and vision. Anyone who meets you knows that you guys love this school district, and we really appreciate all of you. These baskets were do you want to say something about the baskets? They were put together by all the campuses, but I can tell you this, Nikki and our career and technology students with the Glowforge made the lights there in front of you. Those were pretty neat. So but we want to say thank you very much for all you do.
So thank you for the gifts. Haven't gone through the basket yet, but I'm sure there's lots of good treasures there. So thank you again. And next, I believe, is Campus Spotlight. Ms. Wynn?
Ready? Okay. If it's okay with you, we are actually going to start with some student recognitions from our campus. And we apologize. This meeting was initially on a Monday and then got moved to a Thursday, which is basketball games. So we have a lot of basketball players in this group. We were shocked. I went and saw them today and I was like, raise your hand if you're a basketball player. And everyone was like, okay, well, your name's going to be said and you're very special. We love you. So their name will be said. We are going to recognize them, but we're also going to, oh, look. And so we're going to recognize them at this time.
Okay, just like every other campus, sickness has hit our campus like crazy. Miss Armstrong, who is actually the FCA and NJHS sponsor, was going to introduce them, but the sickness has hit her. So I'm going to take her place, and so I'm going to brag on these young men and women. So I am incredibly honored and grateful for the opportunity to highlight an exceptional group of young leaders at the Godley Middle School. These students bring outstanding work ethic, unwavering character, and a willingness to step up without hesitation. Throughout the year, they participated in a lot of impactful events, spending the time trying to organize it and getting it together. For example, they organize our monthly FCA meetings, which bring over 250 of our students to the cafeteria. They taken the lead in organizing our clothes closet for those in need. They organize the See You at the Pole each year. Back in November, the Godley Middle School held a Veterans Day assembly where FCA and NJHF members volunteered to help with the Fallen Hero table ceremony, and then they personally folded 600 yellow ribbons so that every student, staff member, and guests that arrived could wear it. On top of this, these students are committed to maintaining their grades and completing independent service hours. NJHS has actually adopted a highway, so each year they get to go clean the highway, and they do so with smiles on their faces and without complaining. But regardless of what task we put before them and whatever they are told to do, they don't hesitate. They're like, yes, sign me up. When do I show up? When do I need to be there? I'm there. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Miss Armstrong actually leads a book study with them, and it's been one of the highlights of her year. I think at the beginning of the year, they were pretty quiet and reserved. But, now that it's January, I think they're more actively engaged in the discussion. And they're starting to realize that their voices and their voices and actions truly make a difference. At the middle school level, stepping out of your comfort zone to lead and speak in front of your peers can be challenging. But FCA members, NJHS students, they embrace that challenge. And they have found that their voices are a key part of what makes Godley Middle School a special place every day. I'm excited to watch these incredible leaders continue to grow, and I can't wait to see the impact they have on the future. So, like she said, a lot of them couldn't be here tonight because they're sick, or they're playing basketball, or they have a million other commitments because they are truly the best of the best students. But so we have Carolee Abbott. She is in National Junior Honor Society. We have Sydney Applegate. She is an FCA. Taylor Bain, National Junior Honor Society. Bailey Branham, National Junior Honor Society. Bailey Branham, FCA. Lily Clark, FCA. Eli Dixon, National Junior Honor Society. He is also an FCA. Hayden Flood, National Junior Honor Society. Jordan Hutt, National Junior Honor Society. Layton Murphy, she is in National Junior Honor Society and FCA. Rylan Pesner, she is an FCA. Kaylee Price, National Junior Honor Society. Mason Quinteros, FCA. Kinley Simmons, National Junior Honor Society and FCA. Carly Sunhigh, FCA. Blakely Thompson, FCA. Briggs Thompson, National Junior Honor Society. Jesse Tout, National Junior Honor Society. And Reagan Wood, National Junior Honor Society.
Okay. You know I'm always excited to tell you about the school that I'm working in, and today is no exception. So thank you for taking time to hear about each of our campuses. Rest assured it does mean a lot to us. I cannot start the meeting without recognizing those people. So if you are at Godley Middle School, would you please stand? We do, like I said, our coaches aren't here. These are the people who these are the people who put the pedal to the metal and make the magic happen. And so we are so thankful for them. They are also, just so you know, the last men and women standing, because many of them, I know, we're pretty excited. We actually clapped for ourselves yesterday because we're still healthy, and we were pumped about that. So thank you all for the work that you do. We're going to start tonight just with some numbers, just because I want to keep you updated about enrollment at Godley Middle School. And so we are up to 486 kids at this time, probably higher because we've had a couple of new enrollees. If you look at those numbers, we're at 18% of students who receive special education services, 16% 504, and then we have kind of a breakdown of white Hispanic, which is a majority of our population, and then our economically disadvantaged. What that really says to you is that these educators work really hard, because that's a lot of needs. And they show up every day, and they put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get these kids where they need to be. Before we move on to Pillar Talk, I do want to talk just a hair about kind of my vision for the year. Here's the reality. Change is hard. It was hard at G6 because I'm new. It's hard at GMS because I'm new. And so our theme for this year really has been, it comes from Brene Brown, and she talks about just choosing, because it is a choice, to have courage over comfort. And when you're learning something new, or when change happens, oftentimes we get uncomfortable because we're humans. I'm in the same boat. And so we made a commitment at the beginning of the year to push through that and be courageous through that change. And I'll tell you that every one of the people sitting over there have done that. So I'm very, very thankful for that. That's going to be our theme for the whole year. I am going to elaborate on that in a little bit, but I want to push that out first. Now as I move into the Pillar Talk, it is hard for me. So Pillar 1 is student learning in progress. And it's hard for me to talk about student learning without talking about adult learning. And I know that's weird, but I've really been reflecting on that. When I came to Godley ISD and made the choice to join this team, one of the things that really was profound to me was their commitment to develop us. And so since I've been here, we have focused on leadership and what that looks like, and we've read together and discussed together. And I mean, our superintendent sits at that table and has those discussions with us. Mr. Carnes sits at that table. Jeremy Cottle, every one of the people behind me are sitting around that table and committed to growth professionally. And I think that's really special. And I think that that does also leak down to our teachers. And so just like we have an expectation for ourselves to learn, we have an expectation for kids to learn. And so a couple of years ago, they introduced the Fundamental Five. I love that book. I'm familiar with that book, have been for years. I have paired that with Teach Like a Champion, just to elaborate on that learning and extend it for our teachers. I mean, we've really talked about how intentionality in the classroom matters. And so we'll hear more about that. What I'm going to show you here in a second is how that's impacted us at GMS this year. I'm a storyteller. So I apologize for that up front. I had to do this in front of a group of parents the other night, but I like to tell stories. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about this man right here. We have a coach and we have a player. And I don't know if you know anything about John Wooden and Bill Walton, but they are two very successful men. You can tell this is a dated photo, but I think there are still some things we can learn from that. And so I'm going to read an excerpt from Bill Walton's autobiography, where he talks about how he came to play for Mr. Wooden, Coach Wooden. I had dreamed about playing basketball at UCLA since I was 12. Now, here I was, and the reality was better than the dream. The first day of practice, October 15th, we were ready to roll. Just before the start, always at 3:30 p.m. sharp, Coach Wooden called all the freshmen together and walked us into the locker room. There, he sat on a stool and he began to lecture us. We sat there like dutiful sponges, ready to soak it all up, knowing that he was about to give us the keys to heaven on earth. He was going to show us the path, guide us to become the next great team in history. His first words were, "Men, this is how you put your shoes and socks on." We were stunned. We looked around at each other. Are you kidding me? We're all high school, all-American players, and here this silly little old man is showing us how to put our socks and shoes on. It goes on to tell this story about how this little old man sits in front of them and actually demonstrates. And he describes it as grotesque. He says he has varicose veins, he hasn't cut his toenails, he takes off his shoes and he puts them back on, and he shows them how to lace them properly. And he talks about how important it is that the socks are just right so that they don't ride down and you don't have blisters. And then he went through the rest of the uniform and taught them how to tie their shorts properly. And I think there's a lot we can learn from Coach Wooden, because what that man realized is success is in the details. And so that is something that we are looking at and thinking about and talking about at Godley Middle School. And we're trying to apply that principle to our instructional practices. And this is kind of what it looks like. We talk about how success is in the planning. Y'all, it's so important. You cannot replace the first lesson. You can't. And if you don't get them the first time, it's 10 times as much work. We talk about how we should be planning with intentionality. We talk about the strategies behind questioning. We talk about the way we group kids matters. We talk about the activities. And we talk about how we should all be planning purposefully. And so we've started that work. It's hard work, y'all. And they have stuck with me and they've committed themselves, even though it's hard. And here are a few things that have come from that. I want to talk about student learning in progress. This is the change we made to RTI time. Last year, RTI time was really homeroom time, and we didn't use it for instructional purposes. And so this year we were intentional about that because students have to get intervention time. And so these are the number of hours we were required to earn by the state, and that's how far we've come. We track them, we have a system in place, our teachers are committed to that time, and we've had great success. Again, it goes back to intentional planning before the school year ever started, and then being faithful and committed to rolling out that plan successfully. In addition to that, when you look at the Godley Middle School failure rates, and what I mean by that is the number of students who are failing our classes the first quarter, the second quarter, and the first semester, you're going to see that we've shown huge growth there. Quarter one last year, we had 11%, that matched this year. But then you look at quarter two, and we had a 19% last year and half of that this year. And then when you look at the semester overall, we went from 15% to 7%, so half as well. Again, I think it does come down to the first teach. It comes down to being intentional with every kid, and it comes down to quality instruction. So we are excited about this. We feel like these two numbers are showing that we're moving in the right direction. And as we move on to pillar two, which is student readiness, I wish I had more quantitative data for you. I would say that this is more qualitative. And we do have a careers class, and y'all, it is powerful. Ms. Armstrong, the students who were sitting here a moment ago, those are some of her students, and she talks to them about what high school is going to look like, and then she talks to them about what life after that's going to look like. And she is committed to making sure those kids are on their own pathway, pursuing their own dreams. She attends ARD meetings to continue that facilitation. Ms. Fisk partners with this and partners with her in that endeavor. Also, Ms. Fisk pushes into classes to talk about responsibility, to talk about organization, to talk about next steps. And she has been very faithful to that this year, going in every Tuesday and Thursday to 7th and 8th grade. And then at Godley Middle School, I will say I do think our staff has high expectations for behavior and accountability, and I think that's really important too. And so the kids know that. I'll tell you, you won't find better kids than you find in Godley Middle School, and they do make us proud every day. Lastly, I want to talk about safety and well-being. These are things that we talked about in the last pillar talk that we did. But here are a couple of other things that I think are a testament to teaching our kids responsibility, training them up, and putting systems in place to help them be successful. Last year, during the first semester, we had 1,502 tardies. Y'all, that's a lot. And we still have a lot. You're going to notice we had 1,152 tardies, but that is a 23% decrease, which we're proud of. It means we're moving in the right direction. Same thing with discipline. Last year in the first semester, we had 504 discipline referrals came through the office. This year we had 414 in the first semester. That is an 18% decrease. So again, I think the systems you put in place matter, and they impact kids greatly. I started this talking about courage over comfort, but I want to share the whole entire idea with you because it's profound to me. I've heard integrity described lots of different ways. And mostly what we tell kids is it's doing the right thing when no one's looking. But to me, it means so much more. And so Brene Brown in her book talks about it's choosing what's right over what's fun, what's fast, or what's easy. And y'all, in today's world, those things are highlighted a lot. And I want to work with educators who choose what's right. And I get to do that every day. She talks about how it's practicing your values, not just talking about them. And so when I think of Godley Middle School, this is the vision I have for our campus, and I'm extremely blessed to be working with people who meet that definition every single day. We want to end today just by thanking you. It is Board Appreciation Month. And I am thrilled to work with you and beside you and to educate your kids and your grandkids and all the people. You are encouraging, you are supportive, and we do see the work you do and we appreciate you. And then last but certainly not least, we want to send a shout out to Dr. Deere for his birthday. Happy birthday, Dr. Deere. Do you all have any questions?
No specific questions, but thank you for including data points
Oh, sure.
to show
Yes.
progress.
Thank you.
I realize that we have our pillars in place for a reason, but thank you again for including the additional data.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms.
Dr.
Green.
Deere.
All right, next next on the agenda, we have superintendent reports. Mr. Duke.
So there's no construction update tonight. They have scheduling conflicts when we move the meeting. So the next presentation, Spencer's going to give us just a real short look at what we can possibly do with the property that we purchased on 600 North Pearson Street. It's the house in front of RBG. We don't have any set plans yet for the property. This is just kind of the first run through, just an example of what we could do with it. So Spencer.
Thank you, Dr. Deere. Good evening, board. So, real quick, I wanted to show you what the current enrollment, what we're currently sitting at. So, what this is looking at is a snapshot date from the 23-24 year, which was October of 2023, compared to the first day of school this year of 24-25 in August, as well as the snapshot date. So you can see that we are continuing to grow. It's a great problem that we have, because the community around us is excited about the opportunities that are here. And so to go through that, one of the things we have to look at is what do we do with the space that we currently have? What do we do with our finances to make sure that we're spending them appropriately and with stewardship? And so what we did is we, as a board, you voted to acquire this property that's right in front of RB Godley. So it's bordered on two sides by RBG parking lot, and then the other side is the RBG exit with that street. So it's a really great space that we can utilize for a lot of different things, but what is going to be the best item that we use it for? So one of the first things is potentially using it as office space. And so you can see there's kind of a small workup of what that would potentially be. So we're potentially moving about 8 staff from the Legacy Elementary downstairs, where all of the administration office is currently at. And what this will do is allow us to potentially grow in the future. It's a very temporary Band-Aid to an issue that we're going to still need additional space, additional new spaces for the kiddos coming in. But this is what we have right now that we can utilize. And so again, it would allow for most of the traffic to go over to the house instead of coming into Legacy Elementary. So all of the new registration, all the people coming in for HR, counseling, different things of that nature would now be separate and be at the house, add a little bit more privacy for them. And then the main thing is that it opens up 4 to 5 classrooms. And so the reason why it's 4 to 5 is because one of the classrooms is the old boardroom, which is significantly larger. And so if that was an option that we wanted to look at, we could cut that in half and then go from 4 classrooms to 5 classrooms. And then the other option is utilizing it as a rent property. So being able to use it as incentive for staff that are coming in from out of the area that don't have a place to live, and then we could charge them rent for it, and then once they did find their permanent property, then or permanent residence, then we could rent it out to somebody else. And so it would also allow it to be open for future uses. And so the difference with the office item is that we would have to do a little bit of construction. And so if we do construction, then that potentially takes it from being a house in the future. So it would just be an office. One of the reasons, again, while we're doing this is these are the current classroom sizes for pre-K through 2nd grade. So I highlighted all of the ones in red. Those are all of the classrooms that are over the 20-to-1 ratio, and a little bit higher than what we probably have been used to and are used to at Godley. We like to try to keep that as low as possible, but with the current space issues that we have, this is what we're looking at. So you can see it kind of goes across all campuses. There's at least one campus, PK through 12, that is out of space in any significant area. And then this is the 3rd through 5th grade classrooms. These are, as you can see, are significantly filled. And so again, the classrooms weren't necessarily designed for a large number of students in there. So to be able to learn in a safe space and to have room, it kind of gets to a cap, and so we're actually looking at being at that right now. One of the things that this potentially does, again, this is the demographic study from September that we did, and so you can see that this would potentially move this down the road a couple of years, which would give us time as needed to potentially look at building out so that we are ready when the time comes, then we have the facilities available. It doesn't do anything, unfortunately, for the 6th grade and middle school campuses. You can see there that they will still be coming up on full capacity pretty quickly. Again, as we continue to grow about 200 students each year, this is going to be an option for us to potentially open up classroom space for them on a temporary basis if we decide to go with an office, or if we don't go with the office space and we utilize it as a classroom, or excuse me, as a rent house, then we're going to have to determine what are our other options to house these kiddos. Currently, the only option would be potentially building portables and having portables outside. The thing about portables with that is they are not as cheap as they used to be, and there's also a lot of safety regulations that now has to go into them since they're outside the main campus. So just something that we have to keep in consideration. And so these are just my recommendations. We're not taking any action on it this month, but to authorize Huckabee using our current RFQ to make sure that we're utilizing zoning and permitting and doing all of that properly, and then look at all other options on the table before we pull the trigger potentially on making it office space. If there's other things that we can do at different campuses, then I would say we can look at doing those. And then the ultimate goal would be to keep that cost below $75,000 on the addition renovations. Any questions?
Just a quick question. So I know your recommendation is to authorize Huckabee to be the architect on the project. Have we looked into other architects to make sure that we are getting the best value and make sure that we're not paying for the most expensive architect?
Yeah,
or
so,
are we getting bids for it?
So we would have to go out for RFQs on that, and with it being such a low-cost project, I do not think we are going to have any architects bid on that significantly of a lower project. I have talked to Huckabee on this, and they're going to keep their costs way below what they would normally charge to do this type of fee, since it is a lower valued property. One of the things with that, though, is even if we're going with Huckabee, which is not the most expensive architect that's out there, is making sure again that we're building this potentially for a lower per square footage cost than we would have otherwise.
Quick question. It's weird sharing the mic and asking you a question. Do you have a recommendation that you could email us or email over for them to point of contact at another firm or suggestion?
I do know that Cleburne ISD and Joshua ISD have looked at other architects. I could reach out to them to ask who they're utilizing. I do know that they went with other architects, so I just was wondering if we looked at other architects.
So we have considered that. We just don't want to do it for this smaller project because I know none will respond to it. Our next larger project, we have talked about going ahead and going through that process, just because we've been with Huckabee for a while. So Spencer suggested it might be that time to to kind of just see what else out there, just to do our due diligence. So we are planning on doing that for our next larger project because we have more respond.
Okay, thank you.
Spencer, can you go back to option 1 diagram that you have? Two questions that I had associated with that is, where would the staff park? And then if that was in the RBG parking area, how does that not impact current staff at RBG? Secondly, where would parents that are coming to register or whatever, where would they park?
Yeah, great question. So the way that this diagram is set up is the bottom of the slide is actually the front of the house, and that is what faces 2331. The back of the house would actually become the front of the office. And so we would potentially pour concrete, walk path from the building to the RBG parking lot. That's the safest option that we currently see for parking. As far as it impacting current staff, I don't believe that they're utilizing the kind of that back couple of rows of parking, and so I don't think there would be any impact there. And then also in this would be wayfinding documentation, or excuse me, wayfinding signage, and so that's where the public would also park as well. If we were looking at potentially having some ADA spaces and having those up in the driveway, so if people had those needs, then they could park a lot closer.
Thank you for that. I see Jody shaking her head. Yes, you've got room in the back parking lot? Yes. Okay. Okay, like we said, this was just information, just kind of a first run through. If we did decide to pull the trigger, of course we bring this to you and bring you more formal presentation. We just kind of wanted to keep you in the loop. Our next kind of same type of conversation, we've started having our first initial conversation with staffing. Again, this is just high level first review. So Spencer, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Dr. Deere. So wanted to say first off is that in conversations with the admin team have been very, very productive. There has been a lot of collaboration across the different campuses, and so one of the things that we're looking at going into next year, the 25-26 year, is I'm not being able to recommend adding any more FTEs. There's a couple of reasons behind that, but that's currently the viewpoint. One of the things that we would look at is in April, there's a few things that are kind of coming together in April. In April 25th is when we get our preliminary values from the county, and you know, with Johnson County being one of our being the largest county that we have property in, and not knowing how the new appraisal system is going to impact us on our funding, we wanted to be conservative and see what the preliminary values were at that time. We're also doing a staffing survey through TASB. We will get the final results of that in April as well as we're in the legislative session, and so hopefully we'll know a little bit further direction of where they're potentially going on funding. And so with all those items coming in April, I think it's prudent for us to sit back and make sure that we have all the information before we start, you know, adding different staff. Because one of the goals, again, that we want to bring up is our fund balance. We've talked about that previously, how we want to get that back to a significantly healthier level. So with that, no FTEs. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be new FTEs at different campuses, and again, that's because of the cross-collaboration of the admin teams. There's some areas that some of the campuses were not fully being able to utilize an FTE in the next year. They're currently utilizing it, but in the next year they wouldn't necessarily need it based on the students that are coming in their campus, and so they're moving that FTE to another campus to be able to serve our kiddos. So again, that's just kind of the first review, and just as an FYI, probably not going to see anything else until April unless there's a specific need that comes up that's required that we have to add, different things of that nature.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. If you guys don't have any questions for Spencer. I had just a few updates for TechStop projects. The 917 straightening the S-curve. They should start moving dirt next month, February, but they'll be out in the middle of the field, so it shouldn't impact us. They said they really wouldn't do anything that would potentially impact us until April or May, and if it rains a little bit, probably the summertime, it might not impact us at all. And all that would be is, you know, at both ends of the S-curve, they'd have the traffic light and just one direction would go at a time. But they also said that they would do as much as possible during drop-off and pick-up to help us out. So they've really been great with working with us. And the 171 project, and this 917 is about a 6-month project starting in February. The 171 project is expected to start bidding next month, and they said they could start construction as early as this summer, maybe sooner. And it's a much bigger project. It's 17 miles from Cleveland to Crescent. It's supposed to take about 2 years, but it's a whole lot of widening and adding a lot of middle turn lanes here in Godley, a lot of right turn lanes, that sort of thing, and then the Super 2 in there as well. So just wanted to kind of bring you up to date on those. And that's all I have for superintendent reports. Did I skip you, Mr. Carnes? Yes, and the last part of superintendent reports is Mr. Carnes on signaling and community-based accountability.
All right. I was hoping I didn't miss something there. So, well, good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. Great to see you all. And so tonight we're going to come to you with Q2 signaling every quarter. And hopefully y'all kind of gotten used to this by now, that we're going to come to you and just give you some updates on how we're doing, some things we're working on. And so tonight we will be bringing student learning in progress. That's a staple for every quarter that we'll come to you with. So student learning in progress, and then student readiness. How are we preparing students for whatever comes next, if it's the next grade or after high school. So, and then at the end we have safety and well-being. And so I've asked Brian Hunt to come up and give you a rundown of some things that are going on there. So with that, we'll start with, well, hey, principals, if y'all wouldn't mind coming up here.
All right, well, thank you. I will start presenting for Pleasant View, and then Mr. Frazier, the illness has hit his house, so I have a little to share on his behalf as well. So for Pillar 1 at Pleasant View Elementary, our main focus in this area was focusing on students' futures and oh no, this one is focusing on the student learning. And so we were working on PLCs, district planning, classroom coaching cycles, and everything's moving forward with that. Our big focus was in Pillar 2, where we were working on students focusing on their future. We implemented the clubs this year, and we finished our first cycle for the first semester. The students have been so excited. The teachers enjoyed it. We did a little feedback form of some things they would like to change. Teachers wanted to adjust their clubs a little bit. So this week we've been in the process of allowing students to come and make selections of what clubs they would want for this next semester. It's super fun. I made a picture board for the kinder, first, and second grade, so they can just kind of come up and pick what clubs. They give me 2 choices, and then we'll arrange them. So we'll be starting our next round of clubs in February. We had things from arts, crafts, origami, tag, and games, soccer. Coach Prater even did fishing. We were a little disappointed because the day we were going to go down to the pond, it sprinkled, so we told the kids when the weather improves, we'll take that club down there so they can actually, they were casting in the gym, so now they'll get to go put it in the water. So they keep asking about that, so that's been exciting. And then we're also in the process now of getting started. Our other big goal was to have an overall career day on the campus. We've had classes in grade levels that have done career day, but we want to do a big day. So that's going to be on May 14th, and I'll be sure that that's on the calendar and everything. We'll be sending out a survey, an interest survey for parents and community members that might want to come and be a part of that. We also intend to use our big screen and projector areas, so hopefully maybe there are some professions and careers that can't come to us. We would like to try to set up Skypes or Google Meets or something, so we have a couple of teachers that have family members that one's a marine biologist and one's does something with chemistry. So, but they couldn't come here, they're in other states. So we're going to be looking to kind of make that a bigger to-do. So we're excited about that. The team's getting started and getting that kicked off. So we'll bring more to you after all that. And then of course in 7, Mr. Hunt's going to present for most of us. That was just an area that we're supporting the district initiatives in terms of door sweeps and audits, and we're up to date on all of our drills and everything. Ms. Mack does a great job keeping us on track with our drills, so we're up to date on all that. Any questions for Pleasant View? Okay, And then for Mr. Frazier and for Legacy, he said his pillar 2 and 7 were areas that were staying the course, and the main focus that he's working on is pillar 1, and they implemented or added some additional language to just improve the meets and masters level of their students. All of us at the elementary level are wrapping up our MAP testing and M-class testing. That's happening this week and next week. So we'll have the actual numbers coming up in February, where I know at my campus, and he said as well, we'll be doing data dives to compare this round with the beginning of the year, what students are making progress, what students might need to have extra assistance, do we need to change our groups, and those kinds of things. So I know the two of us, and I'm sure Jody will share that, we'll have those conversations in the next couple of weeks. And don't ask me questions about Legacy, because I don't know.
Good evening, board. I'm going to start with Pillar 1. That is our big push this year, as I presented in November. We are really focusing on our data there in relation to student learning and progress. And as Dr. Block reported, we are in the middle of M-class and MAP testing. And something really exciting happened this week as we've been testing. I've had several teachers come and track me down with data written on notebook paper, whatever they have in their hands, ready to talk about the changes they've seen in their students, excited about the changes. So for me, it's inspiring to know that it's becoming just part of who our Be Godly is, what our Be Godly is. So I just want to share that with you this evening. We are still tracking everything through walkthroughs. We are seeing a huge focus on the verb and the teak so that we can measure rigor in the classroom. That is a conversation that we have all the time, and teachers have embraced it. They've gone through the pains of editing and collaborating on getting that wording just right on their boards so that it's student friendly, but it's focused, and we all know that we're driving towards the same goal. So it's been very exciting to see that change. Sorry, I'm old school with paper notes. Pillar 2, we are holding steady there. Our clubs have been rocking and rolling for a couple of years now. I was going to save this little nugget for our spotlight next month, but we have 2 new clubs that have come on board, and I will elaborate more but in February. But one that we're really excited about is our yearbook club, run by 5th graders, but manned, headed up by a 1st grade teacher. So very fun to see that cross collaboration there in the building. And then we have one coming online this spring. It hasn't started yet. We're about to start that in a couple of weeks, and it was a student request. And so we worked really hard to get it off the ground, and that is theater. So they want to write and produce their own play for the student body. So it's really exciting. They met with me. They had a plan and a vision and an idea, so I was really glad that I was able to support that. And we're gonna see how it goes. I'm really excited to see what kind of play they write. And then Pillar 7, as Dr. Block stated, Mr. Hunt's gonna do a lot of presenting on that this evening, but I want to let you know that we've had a state door audit, and we were fine. We passed, no issues, no findings. We passed all of our weekly door audits, and we are up to date on all of our drills. Any questions about Are We Godly?
So, yes, quick question overall.
Yes, sir.
I believe last year there was, RV Godley was identified as having some areas of opportunity. So can you just address where we are with that current information? Obviously, you're telling us how we're improving in our plan for that, but addressing, I guess I would say, the information from a couple years ago.
Sure. So I believe that information was presented last year in the TIP, and the board voted and approved that. We are continuing with that plan. I'm involved with coaching with the service center. I will tell you that what they're looking at, that score they're looking at. When we got in was quite low. Last year we had doubled the Closing the Gap score, so we are on the trajectory and moving in the right direction. We're hoping these tweaks like that I've talked about as far as diving into data, focusing on our special populations in the school are going to make that even quicker, that change.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else with the board? I just want to say before I'm off the mic, and you guys know I don't talk a lot, but I appreciate all that you do. I know that what you do is an act of service. I know you're away from your families when you're here. I know the sacrifice that it is, and I just want to thank you for your time and for everything that you do for us.
Good evening. I'll just reiterate the same thing Jody said. Thank you all very much. I was the son of a board member when I was in middle school. I know how much my dad spent time, and it's one of the boards that is not paid like other boards are around the county. This is totally volunteer service that y'all do. So thank y'all very much. You deserve the appreciation y'all get this month and each year. Here at the high school on Progress and Learning, we're still focused on our master's scores that we started out at the beginning of the year. We're trying to hit those numbers. We're working hard. We spend a lot of time. Thank Dr. Cotto for the look forward protocol time that we got. A lot of our teachers looked at their semester exams and how students did on their exams, questions they missed, why did they miss them, what can we do to reteach them to make sure they're ready to go. A lot of those exams were star-based exams in the core classes that give EOCs, so we could look at those exams and see how those questions are going to be asked. So we're looking forward to when the EOC test rolls around in April and see some of those results. So that's our pillar one. Pillar two, this is one of our big lifts, always thinking about graduation and what kids will do next. So we have introduced flex time this year again, where kids have a little bit more freedom to do some of their clubs and get an opportunity for tutoring or advancement in other areas. We have adjusted that this semester a little bit. The kids that are failing classes have to go to specific locations for tutoring now. It took us a while to learn the system, but Mr. Johnson has done a lot of work on that and got that figured out. And then with our 2.3 down there, we're making a slight change. We've done a career fair in the past. We've had a lot of feedback, and we are grateful for the community members that come and talk to our students. But when you allow students free choice with just random friends, sometimes they walk around, and some of our volunteers, we're just kind of sitting there waiting on people to come talk to them. So we're changing that up a little bit this year. We're going to do what we call Next Step Series, where we're going to invite those people to come during Wildcat Business Flex time and talk to any students, sophomores and up, that want to go learn about that career path and spend a little bit more time talking to them. It'll hopefully help our community volunteers not have to spend 2 or 3 hours up here. They can spend 30 minutes to an hour. I'm sure Dr. Nix would like to spend some time with him talking about ways we can partner with CTE. So we'll try to get that built in as well. But just being more intentional that each week inviting a new community member to come talk to students and not do it on one day, but spend it out more over a semester. So that is our new approach to that this year, letting kids know what might happen afterwards. Some of our really smart juniors and seniors use that as interview opportunities. They dress up, they come nice, they have their resumes, so we coach them on that, tell them they should, that's a good idea. And the ones that do, it's really cool to see. So that's what we're working on in student readiness for what they do after high school. Obviously, all our other things go on, with our clubs and activities, a lot of success going on. I apologize about volleyball. We had several coming, and then they called in sick. Stuff is going around even here at the high school. So we apologize for that. And then Mr. Helm will come talk about safety and security. The high school has not had its door audit yet, so that's still coming, but we have been passing our weekly checks for the most part. We have a few more doors around here that we're still working on, but we've been much better about making sure those are closed and shut. We know last year that didn't happen, so this year we have been focusing on that to make sure that happens. So we're excited when the audit comes around this year that we'll pass it this time.
He's excited for an audit. I don't know about that. Like the principal said, so much we do at the district level, and then we push that down onto campuses and help them implement those things. So I have a few things here that we've done during quarter two that the campuses have done a really good job of implementing. Some of it we take care of at the district level, and then we take care of that for them. But some of the things that we've done are shot clinics. We provided a low-cost shot clinic for staff as a part of a wellness initiative, and I'm hoping to have numbers on that by quarter three. Miss Joka was sick tonight, or she had a sick kid, And so she'll give me those numbers for next time. As the principal said, we're on track to complete all of our state required drills. Cook Children's Telehealth Clinic, we've had over 200 student visits so far. Before all the flu season, it was reducing absences and students would return to class quickly, but it is at a reasonable cost. Employee wellness, yes.
What you just said, the clinics, did we have the comparison about how much more we had than some of the other schools?
No, sir.
What am I thinking of?
I'm not
I
sure.
thought what am I thinking of, Mr. Carnes?
So she sent that out, and it had some information comparing us. So the Cook Children's visits that the nurses are doing in the office, we had 60, I don't have it in front of me, but we had like 60-something visits listed on there. And then you take a school the size of Keller, they had 48. Granbury had 9, and I mean, hope they're not watching, we're calling them out here. But kudos to our nurses, they're doing an amazing job. But additionally, the other information that they gave was like 52% of those students that came in for a Cook's visit went back to class, and or they had a doctor's visit scheduled within the next day. So then we're getting them back in school, and that's what I've complimented the nurses on, and Katie Jokel as our health services coordinator. You're impacting learning. I know you're in the nurse's office or whatever, but what you're doing is positively impacting student learning, helping teachers, it's helping parents, and they're not having to take off work, a lot of good things. So we were really, really proud of the work that was being done there.
Yeah, we wanted to really point that out. We appreciate the amount of hard they're working to try to keep our attendance up.
Yes, and I know Ms. Jokel's subbed in multiple campuses over the last few days because nurses are out, and we've hired some substitute nurses in the last couple of days as well. So we're trying to move forward in the right direction and keep fighting against this illness. We do have an employee wellness initiative for employees. It's planned for Q3. This will include vascular and body scans, and that exact date is being finalized, so we'll be offering that. Principals talked about door audits. We do those on a weekly basis. TEA has visited a majority of our campuses to complete intruder detection audits, and no findings as of yet, so we'll knock on some wood there. Counseling videos, Ms. Evans, our counseling coordinator, has sent an employee wellness video during the holidays and a parent video to support students transitioning back to school after the break. And she has a next video planned, and it's called The Difference Between Worry, Stress, and Anxiety. And we've received some positive comments from parents on that, and they've been appreciative. We're actively developing reunification kits to support efficient reunification during emergencies that we will use at a campus if they have to reunify. Chief talked to me about he's hired substitute officers to cover vacancies and ensure continued security across the district as Officer Rizzo was on maternity leave during Q2. Elementary campus events, we've supported campuses in successfully coordinating parent registration and sign-in systems for various events, including Christmas parties, Thanksgiving meals, and the fun run. I know I was at RBG, and there was at least 350 visitors that day, and we were able to successfully get everybody signed in as efficiently as possible. The parents I did talk to appreciated the Fast Pass, and they appreciated that RBG has a great system set up for getting everyone checked in. So there was, I don't know about the parking, 350 people, it was hard to park, but there was a fun day. We also provided training and assistance to help campuses prepare and address those issues to ensure a smooth event execution. We provide mental health support for employees. We sent reminders about free mental health services that we offer. We've strengthened those partnerships outside community resources to provide mental health support both in-house and externally. We have CPR and Stop the Bleed training coming up. The Health Services Coordinator, Ms. Jokel, is planning to offer that for students in grades 7 through 12. And I believe she's going to be doing hands-on training in middle school. And as those students move forward, then it'll just be a review as they move on through the grades. We have a tobacco youth survey that we're going to be implementing, and we're working to prepare that. We've already got the parent opt-in form sent home today to grades 6 through 12, and we've already had some response from that. And then I've scheduled those at the secondary campuses. We'll be doing that here in the next few weeks, and we'll be getting that data back, and we're also going to receive $500 from that. So that's something that we'll be using in our department. Our minimum safety standards compliance, we're progressing well towards that compliance, We got word today that the Cycle 1 grant that we got, the $513,000 that we received, that is going to be extended to the year 2027. So it looks like the state's going to be giving us a few more years to spend that money and to become in compliance with all that, because it's really hard to get contractors and everybody on board. So I think they got some pushback. And then, as Mr. Carnes mentioned, notes from our school nurse. She has distributed a monthly newsletters to families featuring practical health tips and essential health-related information to support student and community well-being. This month's newsletter included tips on staying safe and healthy during flu season. And with everything going on and flu and strep on the rise, the custodial staff are now spraying twice per week instead of once. And our transportation is also sanitizing buses and district vehicles. So district's taking the best measures they can to fight against that. And my thanks to the campus administration who put up with some of our stuff, and they're always very appreciative, and we're able to support and be there for campuses if they ever need us for anything. Any questions for me?
I have two quick questions. You mentioned the Fast Pass being used at Christmas. This is our first year to use Fast Pass, and I was just thinking of a question while you were talking about it. Does the system recheck people that are Fast Passed, or is that good for a whole year? I mean, so awful, but so somebody gets the Fast Pass at the beginning of the year, but then they are convicted of something in November, is that gonna catch that when they come back in for our end of year parties?
Well, we run those periodically, so we rerun those throughout the year. We have to do that manually, but we can do that, and it depends on what conviction that is, and it depends on which database that pulls from. And what I mean by that is whether that's rejected or not. So if it's just a misdemeanor crime and those things, we don't reject those, those Fast Passes or any pass. But if it becomes a registered sex offender, obviously that would hit, and then we would be able to.
Are we rerunning our Fast Pass?
Periodically throughout the year, yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned the CPR training for our middle school and high school.
7 through 12.
Will they be able to get their CPR certification?
No,
or is
ma'am,
it just
it's just how do you do this if you're in an emergency situation and you need to? No, I don't think. I'm not sure if they offer a student. I don't know
if they offer a student. I think they do for lifeguards.
Yes.
But not. And I was just that would be really nice for some of our older students at the high school to be able to get their CPR certification. Our health science students probably already do it. Okay, perfect.
I think that's eventually coming, but right now with this new mandate, she's trying to do hands-on first, the 7 to 12, so that it is a review when they get up to the high school level.
That's great.
It's a good deal. She's done a good job.
Good work.
So what all means do we use to distribute these newsletters?
Parent Square. I know she sent that on Parent Square, and then I received it. I think she sent it to all the staff on an email. So I think she's distributed that to Parent Square and through email.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Glenn? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Okay, and we're blessed, y'all. The job that Mr. Hunt does to keep all of us safe and looking through his lens, the job that our nurses are doing. Jamie Duckett sent me a thing, they're sending not just kids home, but adults home, and she said Mr. Carnes' struggle is real. So we're probably coming back with some attendance waivers at the end of the year, and hats off to our custodians for the job that they're doing, trying to keep everything clean and safe, and so it's a lot. But our principals always want to give a shout out to them for the work that we're doing on the campuses, and so we're not perfect, but we do a lot of great things, and the things that we're not, we're facing them head on, we're working on them. So anyway, any questions for me?
Okay,
I'll be back
later,
later.
Mr. Collins. Thank you, principals. Now let's take the superintendent reports.
All right, thank you. Next we have public participation. We extend the opportunity for public participation portion of the meeting in compliance with section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code. have one individual signed up. Public participation provides the opportunity to address the board regarding topics listed on the agenda. Personal attacks on district employees by name or position or students are not allowed. All participants are expected to speak with respect and civility and maintain a calm, professional demeanor. Each individual addressing the board will have 3 minutes to make a presentation. Upon expiration of the 3 minutes, since I have one, I will not be calling the next person. So next, Ms. Olson. You can come to the podium, and if we can have our clock ready to go. And the topic, the agenda item is 8J, which is the board operating procedures. Go ahead, Ms. Olson.
We the people, the first 3 words of the most important governing document in the world. We the people. The Texas Constitution, Article 1, Bill of Rights, Section 2, all political powers inherent in the people, and all governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. Section 8, every person shall be at liberty to speak, write, or publish his opinions on any subject, and no law shall ever be passed curtailing the liberty of speech. Section 27, the citizens shall have the right to apply to those invested with the power of government for redress of grievances or other purposes by petition, address, or remonstrance. I remind you, remonstrance is a forcefully reproachful protest. Both the board members' code of ethics, pledge, participants' responsibilities violate personal conscience and the concept of representative government. I find it interesting that under board meetings, participants' responsibilities, number 6, it says GISD board members will always treat others with respect and professional courtesy and will never attempt to embarrass or discredit other board members, the superintendent, staff, or community members. However, GISD has repeatedly attempted to discredit and embarrass community members, myself included, on many occasions. Integrity of character. I will consistently uphold all applicable laws, rules, policy, and governance procedures. By putting in these new policies, you guys are directly violating the Constitution. Under rules of decorum, number 6, Godley ISD administration may designate a specific area for attendees to stand during the meeting to allow the public to be present. Attendees must stay in the designated area at all times. Godley ISD is committed to providing Godley community with access to school board meetings, and disruption could include use of foul language that violates free speech. Audible utterances, who gets to decide that? It's pretty subjective. Acting in a non-professional manner, other frequent or figure, all subjective. These are all subjective. Very dangerous in a free society. I'll remind you, Ben Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. I implore you, board, to table these tonight.
It's the end of the 3 minutes. Thank you.
In the interest of constitutional rights.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda items. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I'll second.
Having a motion by Marissa, a second by Krista. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next will be a presentation and potential approval of the Godley ISD financial audit for 23-24.
Thank you, Craig. So I'm going to bring up Snow Garrett Williams to do the presentation. You should have a binder there with the documentation of what he will go through.
Good evening, Board. I'm Duncan Ely, an audit manager at Snow Garrett Williams. You should all have a copy of the report. We'll start on the first page. Mr. President, you also have a loose copy of this certificate. At the end, when you've made your motion to approve it, you and the board secretary will sign that once I have that back. I can get a dispenser. We then have an issued audit. He can get everything uploaded to TEA. That's due Monday the 27th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll jump to page 2. As we go through this tonight, please feel free to interrupt me with questions as you go. I'm happy to answer them. We'll just read through a couple of the paragraphs here, starting at the very top. Our opinion. We have audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities of Godley Independent School District as of before the year ended August 31st, 2024. In the second paragraph, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly the respective financial position of Godley Independent School District as of August 31st, 2024. That's your clean or unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give, and it's what you want in your audit report. In the last paragraphs there, the responsibilities of management. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. We'll flip to the top of the next page. The auditor's responsibilities. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinions. We'll flip over to the last page of our letter. That's page 4 in your handout there. In accordance with government auditing standards, we have also issued our report dated January 22nd, 2025 on our consideration of Godley Independent School District's internal control over financial reporting and on our tests of its compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, grant agreements, and other matters. We highlight that as part of your school first indicators that we'll go over at the very end of this presentation, but it has to be in this letter as well. So we'll go over a few more of those later. We'll make a jump to page 16. Page 16 is the balance sheet. There should be 2 faced pages. On the left, we have assets followed by liabilities, followed by deferred inflows. All those deferred inflows are related to property tax. Then fund balances at the end. Going across the page, we have the district's funds. The major funds of the district are general fund, the debt service fund, the capital projects fund. Then we have our other governmental funds. That primarily consists of your grant revenue funds. And then on the far right, we have a totaling column. Total assets of the district at the year end are $38,954,000. Total liabilities are $13,500,000 for a total ending fund balance of $24,939,000. We'll just go down through the general fund as well. Total assets of the district are $9,626,000. Total liabilities are $6,482,000 for a total fund balance of $2,844,100. And then of that, the main chunk in the general fund is your unassigned fund balance set for spending at the district's discretion is $2,665,000. We'll jump to page 19 and look at how we got to that ending fund balance this year. Page 19 is our statement of revenues and expenditures. It's the same columns going across the page, but on the left this time we have revenues, then expenditures. Third line from the bottom is your net change or your increase or decrease in fund balance, and then ending fund balance is the very last line item. Just looking at the general fund, total revenues of the district for the year were $34,245,000. Total expenditures of the district were $36,137,000. A net decrease for the year of $1,917,000 for that same total fund balance that we just looked at, the $2,844,000. Make a big jump in your report to page 50. Give y'all just a second to flip over to that one. This is our general fund budgetary comparison schedule. So we have those same headers along the left, the revenues, expenditures. There's a second page to this that shows that same net decrease and then its effect on fund balance. On the right this time we have our original adopted budget, followed by our final adopted budget, then our actual results, so those numbers that we just looked at, and then the final column is a variance from our final budget to our actual results for the year. We'll just look down that at total revenues and total expenditures. Total revenues came in $637,000 above our budget, and total, I think it's expenditures. Total revenues came in $637,000 above budget. Total expenditures came in $39,000 under budget. That's a TA reporting requirement, but both of those variances are your favorable variances. So, and we'll make one last jump to page 72 here. '72 is our schedule of school first indicators. There are 9 that are directly related and have to be communicated in the audit report. I won't read every one of those, but we'll read the 4 that kind of we deem to be the most important out of those. But as we go through this, all of these are going the right way. You've scored all the points in school first related to the audit that you can. So we'll start with the first one. Was there an unmodified opinion in the annual financial report on the financial statements as a whole? Yes, there was. The second, were there any disclosures in the annual financial report or other sources of information concerning non-payment of any terms of any debt agreement at fiscal year end? No, there were not. We'll jump down to number 5 now. Did the annual financial report disclose any instances of material weakness in internal controls? No, it did not. And then number 6, were there any disclosures in that report of material non-compliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? And no, there were not. Again, I know that those are kind of wordy, they read a little bit backwards, but those are all going in a favorable direction. You've got all your school first points directly related to the audit report. That's everything I plan to go over tonight. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Quick question. I noticed on page 8 in the audit, the notes, it says that long-term commitments are in excess of current available resources. And it also says the district's net position decreased $5 million during the current year, and the decrease is due to an overall increase in spending. Could you just explain those 2 notes?
So reading through them, so you asked about that whole last paragraph, the governmental activities, is that right? Just want to make sure I pick up all of your question there.
Yes, so the long-term commitments being in excess of available resources, and then also the net position decreasing $5 million.
So, as we maybe be better to look at the net position decreasing, that is on A1, which is not an exhibit that we, or A1 and B1 that we go over, that is our government-wide. So that has some pieces that are current actual activity of the districts as well as some long-term things. That includes both debt, that includes capital outlay, and then that also includes our pension and OPEB standards. So to try and kind of answer all of that, we have 2 different levels that we're looking at here. Where we talked about our original increase or decrease for the year was the governmental level, then we have a government-wide level. So to look at those numbers in more depth, you'd be looking at B1, and that's where you can see the decrease of the $5,111,000. And I guess as far as answering your question, I'm not quite sure what exactly you want to know, where that decrease comes from, or what that note is. Just want to make sure I answer your question and understand it right.
Yeah, what the decrease comes from.
So again, it's the regular operations that we talked about. So we talked about that on C2, so I don't have that number memorized. The total $1,917,000 decrease, plus those long-term financing activities, pension and OPEB, a lot of different things impact that as accrual, without getting too technical, but accrual entries that we don't generally account for in government activities. So without walking through it all, it's your regular activities plus, again, your pension, your OPEB, which are accrual, and they're accounting based on estimates. So that's a big part of that additional decrease. And then the rest is just the difference between debt retirements during the year and capital outlays during the year that move off of the income statement at the government fund level and into the balance sheet at the government-wide level. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Happy to do.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, board.
consider a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the audit.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Terry and a second by Krista. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we will have Agenda 8C, consider approving a resolution for electronic bid or proposal criteria.
Speak me these back. Speak.
No, ma'am, those are your copies.
Okay.
Yep, y'all can keep those. Thank you, board. So, just so, let's go back one right here. So what we've talked about in the past is going out for bids for different vendors in the community and the surrounding community to make sure that we're receiving the optimal price for what we're paying for. One of the ways that we do this is through RFPs, RFQs, etc. Typically in the past, this has been done by hand or been using a software system that was, in my opinion, too expensive for what it was allowing. And so what this is I brought on a new software vendor. It's called IonWave. There's a lot of different school districts that are currently utilizing this. A lot of the vendors are used to this, and so it allows the system to be automated, so we no longer have to receive in physical sealed copies. There's a program in the system that allows us to unseal it electronically, so it also helps out the vendors when they're sending stuff to us. And so the resolution in front of you is just adopting a ability for us as Godley ISD to utilize an e-bidding software so that we can procure vendors at the optimal price through RFPs and RFQs in the future.
In case we have anybody watching or here in attendance that are not familiar what RFP and RFQ stand for, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Krista. So RFP is request for proposals, and then RFQ are requests for qualifications. And so there's differences on which ones would be used for different categories. What we would utilize it mainly for right now would be RFP, request for proposals. This would be a lot of vendors. In the future, when we go out for RFQ, request for qualifications, that would be for our architect.
I make a motion to approve the resolution for electronic bid or proposals criteria as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
A motion by Krista and a second by Marissa. Any further discussion? I do have a question for you,
yes, sir.
Spencer. You said new software. Typically, new software is not free.
Right.
So
Yes, so great question. So the software that was previously being utilized was twice the cost of this new software, and so we're actually saving about 50% from what we typically have spent annually.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next, 8D, consider approval of a resolution to pay non-exempt employees for the inclement weather days.
Cheryl's not here, so I'm going to present on this. So typically, what happens when we close school is that the exempt and the ones that have a contract are typically paid for their hours, and we're not required to make them up. But our other staff that are paid hourly and have to clock in and out didn't receive that same item. And so through this resolution, which y'all as a board have done any time that it's come up, will allow them to be paid for those days that we told them not to come into work because of the bad weather days.
So this will be for just the couple of days that we've most recently experienced, and perchance somewhere later in the year, we have a few more, we potentially could see another resolution for those additional days.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Spencer, is there a resolution that allows the district to do that without it coming as a
resolution each occurrence?
Yeah, so to make sure that we comply by Gift of Public Fund rules is that we have to tie utilizing the resolution to it being a specific purpose for the community. And so it is best practice to come each time because there could be different circumstances upon each instance.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to pay non-exempt employees for inclement weather days as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Krista and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Board. Next, discussion and consideration of fentanyl curriculum.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. I've asked Mrs. Evans, our counseling coordinator, to assist me tonight in case there's questions as we worked on this together. This is regarding an important initiative for our district, the implementation of fentanyl abuse prevention and drug poisoning awareness presentation at our secondary campuses. As you may recall, this presentation was sent to you in December for review, along with a document that allowed you to submit questions. This process provided you with an opportunity to fully review the presentation and offer feedback. Additionally, this initiative has been thoroughly discussed and recommended by our district's School Health Advisory Council, or known as SHAC. This presentation aligns with the requirements outlined in House Bill 3908 and Texas Education Code 38.040, which mandate that each school district and open enrollment charter annually provide research-based instruction on fentanyl abuse prevention, drug poisoning awareness to students in grades 6 through 12. Specifically, this required instruction includes suicide prevention, prevention of the abuse and addiction to fentanyl, awareness of local, school, and community resources and processes for accessing those resources, health education that includes information about substance abuse and abuse, including youth and substance use and abuse. To ensure compliance with this legislation and to address the critical issue of fentanyl abuse and drug poisoning awareness, we plan to work closely with our secondary campuses on implementation procedures. This presentation will be offered as an opt-in program to respect parent preferences and provide flexibility. Parent permission forms will be sent home, allowing parents to review the presentation in advance and provide consent for their children to participate. Fentanyl abuse is a growing concern across our nation, our state and nation, and we believe this presentation will provide our students with life-saving knowledge and resources. By addressing this issue through comprehensive education, we can help protect our students and empower them to make informed decisions. It is our recommendation that the presentation be approved tonight so that we can move forward with this critical initiative. Thank you for your time, consideration, and ongoing commitment to the safety and well-being of our students. Any questions?
I have one question. So as far as it being opt-in, how will we be communicating that out, that it is an opt-in option? Will it be Parent Square, or will we, I'd like to see us go even further and maybe email additionally, just so people know that this is an option.
So we will do Parent Square like we just did with our the youth tobacco survey, and once parents agree to that, we receive that back, and then we can put that in a database of opt-in only. So we'll be utilizing Parent Square to that. Obviously, we'll include if they have questions to call us, or if they can't figure out the form, we'll provide campus assistants to be able to do that, but it'll be an opt-in program.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to thank you for making that opt-in.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted to say great work. It's a very informative and thorough presentation, and it's going to do a lot of good.
Well, thank you, and I will give 90% of the credit to Ms. Evans. She is gifted at that. I'm just kind of the guy that sits over in the corner now. We worked hard on it, but she took the lead on it and did very, very, very well, and really put a lot of thought into it. We received some resources from Texas Education Agency, not a whole lot. We basically had to come up with it on our own, and from other safety directors and people that I talked to, most districts are in the same boat. There's really not a presentation out there. You really have to do it yourself, and she did a great job. She will be narrating the presentation before we send it home, so that parents and teachers can implement that and push pause and those type of things, so it'll be a little bit easier to implement.
What will we do for our Spanish-speaking parents?
That's a good question. We can do Parent Square. Mr. Mentor told me today that it automatically does that. And then we'll work with the campuses. If there's any bilingual issues, we'll work with the campuses and get support there.
I'll consider a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the fentanyl curriculum as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Jeff and a second by Terry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Echo the format, the contents, very thorough, very good work. So thank you all again for the time and effort you put into it.
Thank you. And yeah, we appreciate the support. Thank you guys.
Next, we will consider a Tarleton Today MOU. Dr. Nix.
Good evening, board. We are deep into planning for 2025-26. Crazy to say that out loud, but we are. Before you tonight is the MOU for Tarleton Today. Tarleton Today is a dual enrollment program that allows our students to earn college credits. It creates a little more flexibility than traditional dual credit courses. It allows our teachers to be the teacher of record here on campus, partnering with Tarleton that provides the curriculum and scope and sequence. So our teachers administer the Tarleton curriculum that aligns with their college level coursework, which is a benefit for us because we have a little bit more open communication as far as grades and flexibility and an understanding of what high school students are capable of and the high school schedule as far as extracurriculars. The additional flexibility that dual enrollment brings us is that it allows the student at the end of the course to either accept or reject the college grade. So we can encourage students to really take some risk and try out some higher level rigor courses. And if they can't or aren't able to be successful in those courses, they can deny that college credit on their college transcript so that does not transfer with them as they pursue higher education. Additionally, their high school grade can be different from their college grade. So if our teachers see that our students are struggling and need remediation or need to go back and redo assignments or add in enrichment content for students, they can do that and add those grades to their high school average, where you cannot do that in traditional dual credit courses. Historically, we have partnered with Tarleton Today to offer ag business, animal science, and algebra at the college level. We're looking at moving our government courses, our U.S. history courses for sure to Tarleton Today for next year, and we are exploring the option and having some conversations with them about our English courses. They view high school English as not a full year of composition first, but that the English 3 TEKs really are half composition and half literature, and senior English is half composition and half literature, which is really how the high school standards are written. So their proposal actually puts a semester of comp paired with the semester of literature at the post-secondary level for each junior and senior year. So we are talking with counselors and really talking about advising students, looking at what their potential college major might be, and then advising them accordingly, because not all majors require 6 hours of English or 12 hours of English. So advising them on what would align with their potential master's or bachelor's degree once they go to a post-secondary institution. So for sure, U.S. history and government is on the table for us to move to Tarleton with, and potentially English as well. So they've been great partners with us. The first year we were part of their pilot, and there were some bumps, but it was a first-year program for them, something that was innovative and outside of the box as far as how to offer college credits to high school students. They've been incredibly receptive. This year has gone much smoother for our teachers. Tarleton has listened to our feedback and been great partners in adjusting to what we've requested for them. So this is the first time you're hearing this presentation. I would be happy to bring it back next month if you have questions, but we're also open to you going ahead and approving the Tarleton MOU as presented and recommended tonight.
I had a question. Do you know about how many students we've had this year participate, and how many would you expect to add for the coming year?
In Tarleton alone, we have about 50 students
in the Charlton Today courses, those 3 courses that we currently offer. We did see an increase in dual credit, dual enrollment from the 23-24 school year of about 120 to a little over 200 students enrolled in courses. That's enrollments, not students, so one student might be enrolled in more than one dual credit course. So we did see a large increase in students taking more rigorous courses at higher levels. And I do believe that as we transition courses to Tarleton, that those numbers will continue to increase.
So what will happen to how we currently offer government and history and possibly English? Will it only be offered through Tarleton, or will we keep how we currently offer it as well?
The plan right now would be to make Tarleton the primary source of dual credit opportunities, dual enrollment for our students. Currently, Hill College is our primary source. The only time we use someone other than Hill College for those courses is if a student's schedule just will not work, and then we use McMurray, who is a fully online experience for students, but we feel like in-person provides a richer experience and a more in-depth learning opportunity for students. So the goal would be to move fully to Tarleton Today for those courses next year, with McMurray as a second option if we cannot make it work in the student's schedule.
That will still leave courses with Hill, like through our cosmetology, and what are some of the other courses that will still be through Hill?
There are some art courses, psychology courses, economics would still be through Hill College, our CTE courses that are dual credit, so cosmetology, automotive, we're exploring an EMT program with them right now. So some of the things that Tarleton hasn't quite added to their list of course selections, but they're always asking us what we want to add next, and so we're always making recommendations and what we would like to see Tarleton to add.
So we would still be in a relationship with Hill College, we're just expanding our options to many different opportunities.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I make a motion to approve the Tarleton Today MOU as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Krista and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board. Great work.
Thank you. Next, we have the first review of TASB Local Policy Update 124.
Okay, so policy update 124 was dropped last week, so we just kind of started looking at it and seeing. Fortunately, it's not a significant as far as the number of policies go. I counted 8 local policies. So just as a reminder, it's the legal policies are just that, and nothing that we can do about those. Those are what they are, but the local policies are up for us to discuss and work through and approve. So should have received those explanatory notes. A lot of it is fairly benign. They keep teasing me with taking out or designee, but it doesn't matter, right? Like that's in a different policy, standing alone. So with that, again, 8 local policies. So we just wanted to get these in your hand tonight so that you can start taking a look at them. This is just a first review, just introduction, and then certainly we can give y'all some time to look at it, come back next month and see where we're at. If you have any questions, any changes, or anything that y'all would like to consider around these. So I just started looking at them too, between getting school started and bad weather days and everything else. So, but hopefully, I think it should be pretty routine. So we know legislature's in session now. So the next one might not be. There might be a few more after they're done. But so anyway, 8 local policies and just getting it in your hand. And so, is there any direction you would like, or any questions that you might have tonight to consider around this one?
Yes, I noticed in several of the policies, we are removing the designee and delegating powers only to the superintendent. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm not comfortable removing the designee. I like for the board to have an option to designate a designee for certain responsibilities if the board so chooses. So that would just be my comment.
Okay. And removing the or designee, that has been going on for some time. I know these policies have been removing that because it is specifically stated. I'd have to look it up. I couldn't tell you exactly which policy, but it is stated that superintendent has authority to use his people to help.
Right, it's still in there. It's in there in another policy, just kind of universal. They're just taking it out of every single individual policy, is basically what they're doing. So you still have the ability to do that.
Basically, they're seeing it as a
There's like a
redundancy.
parent policy, there's like a parent policy that oversees, yeah.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Carnes.
Okay.
We'll move to the next item. Consider approval of the Godley ISD academic calendar for 26-27.
Yeah, I laughed when Dr. Nix came up here. She's working on 25, 26. I thought that was cute. No, I'm kidding. So 26, 27, yeah, that's crazy to sound, or crazy to say, and it was interesting when we started looking at it because that's Dr. Block's daughter's senior calendar. So if y'all approve it as it is, then she knows when graduation will be. So and working a couple years ahead, you know, so having this 26, 27 calendar, it really is a beautiful thing for us because we're staying ahead. And remember, we can always come back and make revisions to it if things change. If, you know, knock on wood, hopefully nothing major in the world changes or happens that would cause us to need to do anything like that. But you know, the HR office, the business office, you know, when we were planning and doing it in the middle of the spring semester for the following year, I mean, they are hounding us that we need these, we got to get contracts ready, we got to do all that, you know, do all these things. And so with working, it has removed that stress level, and it further allows us to plan. So they're working ahead, they're better prepared. I know Jen and I, my wife, we've already been looking, and you know, because when the kids were home over Christmas, we were already looking a year in advance since we already have next year's calendar done. So it's nice to have that. So it's really been a good thing. The framework it's really the same basic calendar that we've been seeing over the past few years. I know several years ago we worked through some things, but we've really landed in, I kind of feel like it's in a groove. We have, and from the work that we've done in the previous years, I feel like we kind of have our marching orders on how this calendar is put together. So some of the things that we have, you know, we're kind of starting around that first part of August, but we'll see in this one that the start date would be August 12th, which is a little bit later than we have, but that goes down to May because Memorial Day kicks to the following Monday, May 31st. So with that, we're able to start a little later, and so then keeping the fall break, ending semester one before Christmas. That's always a big thing. You know, there was a time when I was first year, I mean, we would break and then we'd come back for a couple weeks and finish the semester, and that was brutal. That was, you know, that was hard to do for kids and teachers and everyone. So keeping the stock show in mind, that first part of January, because if you'll notice, we were supposed to start on a Thursday this year, but the bad weather hit us. But you know, building in some time there, and teachers and kids alike, they like that first week of a semester to be a shorter week, and so it really helps just kind of get everybody back in the flow of things. The frequent professional development days, we essentially have at least one professional development day in every month to allow teachers time to design engaging learning experiences for our students. Those have been effective and really good. Limiting half days to only the end of the first semester, end of the second semester, and then also ending before Memorial Day. So, and we were able to accomplish all of those things. This was unanimously approved without any opposition from the District Improvement Committee. They did make, you know, we talked through a couple things that those changes were made. Anyway, starting August 12th, moved around based on kind of where some of the holidays fell and keeping those things in mind. So yeah, so this is the 26-27 calendar with all those things in mind. So we recommend that vote on and accept the 26-27 calendar as presented. Any questions?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
going to start the questions. I'm sure there's going to be more.
Yes, sir.
So, while I fully support our being ahead, having a plan in place, we can always update it. How do we ensure that we are keeping our, particularly spring break, aligned with the other districts and with our college campuses, as that seems to be very important?
So, and I've asked this question because I was like, this is the question that's going to come up. And when District Improvement Committee was meeting, I was like, all right, who's going to ask? Tom Frazier, he pulled through for me. And so we talked about that and we worked through it. And so I asked Dr. Nix, I asked Curtis Flood. So I will tell you that in this, so if you go to the spring semester here, we did move spring break from where to the middle of March, which would be the week of March 15th, which I understand maybe there was a long-standing tradition that spring break should have the 15th in it. Like that's kind of a, you know, but so we did accomplish that. So one thing there is keeping in mind for Godley ISD, if we put it where it would have traditionally fallen in line with, let's say, Hill College or any of our other partners, it really imbalanced our quarters. We had 36 days in quarter 3 and 51 days in quarter 4, which that's a long haul to the end. So by putting it there at the week of the 15th, it balanced those quarters at 45 days and 46 days. And so that was important to everyone there. And then, but also talking to Dr. Nix and Mr. Flood and about that, how important is it that we keep spring break in line with, let's say, Hill College, for example? The answer was it's not. So because of the way things have changed, being able to do things online more so now. And we talk about it, it's a lot like when you're playing football with this schedule, if you're playing football during fall break, you're going to be playing football because that's something that you signed up for. Over the Christmas break, you're going to be playing basketball. Over spring break, you're going to be playing baseball, softball, track, those kinds of things. So it comes with it a little bit whenever you sign up for something that you know that you'll be, because I know, my older two that have been through those dual credit classes, when it was spring break, they were still working. And now, and y'all might, we're seeing some of that too, even now that they're in college, even during breaks, they're still having some work to do and to keep up with. So ultimately, if that answers your question, was it that ultimately the answer was it wasn't as important for us to maintain that alignment because of the way that we can accomplish things now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so no more questions, and I'm going to jump in with another question.
Yes, sir.
So, again, I'm fully support our calendar 5 days a week. We know other districts around us have, some have gone to some form of hybrid 4-day a week. So have we looked at the data from the other districts that have engaged or tried some of those 4-day school weeks, looked at that, and then considered, would that benefit us and the students of Godley?
So informally, we've had some discussion. What are the benefits? We talk about benefit, right? What's the benefit? And I know last I checked, out of the 1,200-ish school districts in the state, there were approximately 100, maybe 120 or so school districts that have gone to a 4-day week. Don't quote me on that. But there have been more that have come on board with that, particularly as a retention and recruitment efforts for teachers, right? That's kind of been the one of the big pieces. So we've continued to look at it, yes, discuss it, and then, because I've even, in talking with some of our people, to say that they're opposed to 4-day weeks for various reasons. Some obviously would be in favor of it, so Now, as far as talking to, like I know Joshua went to 4-day weeks, I know Rio Vista went to, theirs was kind of a hybrid, no, sir. I have not spoken to them directly to see, but I have looked, done some reading, done some research. You know, like for example, one of the things is cost-saving measures. Like that's a thing that gets touted for 4-day weeks, cost-saving measures. Well, that's actually not necessarily true, and especially for us in a district of 122 square miles, you lose reimbursement for busing students. So we get reimbursed for the mileage that we travel, so you would be losing approximately 20% of that, right off the top. Utilities, different things, well, we're still running the lights and still running some HVAC in areas and different things, so there are some considerations there. There have also been some reports that I know Oregon and Oklahoma, I just read recently from an organization that the academic performance actually slid back, so there was some concerns there. We are continuing to talk about it. Is it in Godley ISD's best interest? Child care, that's always a big one. If we were closed that one day a week, where do kids go? What do they do? So it's a big matzo ball, as it was said on the Seinfeld. So it is something that we continue to talk about. And with that 26, 27, if there was something, like I said, if that was something that next year we decided we wanted to do, and I do know any district that has done it, the ones that have been most successful took at least a full year to talk and plan and discuss and go through all that. So, but yes, sir, we've had discussions about it. Now, as far as data, like I say, Joshua at Rio, what they have, I don't have that information. But I would say that as you look at this, we actually do have a lot of 4-day weeks in here. Not all for staff. For students have a lot of 4-day weeks because of professional development days. They're built in there, holidays and such. So, but it is something we'll continue to keep our finger on the pulse, on the pulse, and see if that's a direction that we need to head that's in the best interest of students.
So I'd like to ask too, if you do any talking to those other districts, I mean, I would think that they would lose those staff development days, which I would think are, a lot of our teachers left, but I mean, would be key elements to student progress is our teachers, the ability for planning and construction of their lesson plans, et cetera.
Yeah, because I know, like some of the calendars that I've seen on those, they're going, they might be going instead of 170 days, they're dropping down like 150 days. It's pretty significant there. And then some other things that we would have to talk through and work through is then most of the schools are lengthening their school days by 30 to 40 minutes to accomplish the 75,600 minutes that you have to make for a school calendar. And so, there's already some talk, like our school day is pretty long already. And so basically you're trying to squeeze all that into 4 days, and I know Mr. Flood has said this statement, after 3:30 they're done. I don't care if we're going to 4:30 or 5 or, whatever, after 3:30, they're, and so we know that can, fatigue, and just maintaining that from 7:30
One thing too, on the other end, the littles, I mean, can they really go that long? I mean,
I'm guessing what's going on behind
What we can take away from this is that even if we do decide to pass the 26, 27, that just sounds weird, 26, 27 school calendar as you presented it. In the past, when we've passed a calendar that didn't work, we went back and amended it. And there's nothing that will stop us from doing that here. So it's not permanently putting something in cement that we cannot undo if we get to a point in time when we're like, do you know what, that calendar's not going to serve us well anymore. We need to relook at it. So as long, it's changeable if we need it to be.
And I will say too that I'm not currently, we're still having good teachers apply, and still want to come to Godley, and then when they get it, want to stay in Godley. So overall. So we're in, you know, good things are happening, but just like we were talking about with CVAS and signaling, we're keeping our finger on the pulse and addressing things as they come to us and doing, again, what's in the best interest of kids.
I'll make a motion to pass the Godley ISD academic calendar for 26-27 school year.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Terry and a second by Marissa. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll consider and take action on calling the Godley ISD School Board Trustee election for places 4 and 5. Dr. Lee? Okay.
Yes, we've got to call the election.
And I'll consider a motion.
I'll make a motion to order the election for Godley ISD School Board Trustee for places 4 and 5 on May 3rd, 2025.
Have a motion by Terry and a second by Marissa. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And next, we will discuss and consider the Godley ISD Board operating procedures. So before we get into this item on the agenda, just to set the stage ahead, this is something that I think it's pertinent for us to review on an annual basis. You know, the board may be consistent, but we may have new people on the board. So again, we have new sets of eyes, maybe new events. So again, I think it's important for us to look at this. So I asked Dr. here to do some review on it and bring it for us. Obviously, we had a little bit of time since before the holiday to take a look at existing procedures. I know there was some recommendations here. So I'd like Dr. Deere to run through just a top-level summary of some of the changes there.
Yes, sir. Following your guidance, we really we're just trying to consolidate. We have a lot of information out there, so we were trying to consolidate current information that we have in the board operating procedures. So, for instance, we added BFF local policy. Obviously, that's a policy out there, but we just we thought it went well in the board operating procedures. We added the board vision, and that was directly outlined from our board goals. GISD beliefs, goals, values, and pillars, and some simple aligning of the procedures with those beliefs, goals, values, and pillars, and some simple explanations just for added transparency. Like I said, most of the information isn't new. It's just somewhere else out there. So we try to consolidate the information for simplicity and transparency.
Okay, thank you. So I'll consider a motion, and then we can get into discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Godley ISD Board operating procedures as presented and recommended.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Marissa and a second by Terry. Are there any discussion or questions regarding the procedures?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say I want to start on one end and work through kind of like what we've done in the past. So you chimed in first, so we'll start on your end.
Okay, so with the pledge, it includes language from Team of 8 and leads to taxation without representation. As a board member, we're elected by the public, and I represent my constituents, so I have an issue with the way that the pledge is worded. Also, in BBF Local, I do not agree with the statement, I will share my views while working for consensus. We are individual board members, and we may not always reach a consensus. For the 2024 board focus goals, I would like to see improved reading and math literacy moved up to the #1 goal. And I would also like to see the removal of the word elementary so that it's clear that we're focused on improving reading and math in all grades. And then in regards to public comments, I do not agree with the language in public comments and meeting decorum by prohibiting attacks and requiring respect, civility, and order. You are violating the First Amendment constitutional rights of the public to petition their board for redress of grievances, as stated in BED Legal and upheld by Supreme Court cases such as New York Times versus Sullivan. Also, the statement, "The board may request someone removed from the boardroom if they are disruptive to the meeting," is highly subjective and again opening up to a First Amendment violation. The statement, "We do not believe our district should be politicized." We are a governmental body, and therefore our board meetings are political in nature. The statement that you do not recognize individuals who reside outside of district boundaries and do not qualify as GISD stakeholders. This district receives half of our funding from state sources, so any Texas taxpayer is considered a stakeholder. Requiring attendees to sit and stand in designated areas, this is unnecessarily restrictive, and as is the designated recording area, which at times is so far away it is often hard to hear the recorded audio. And number 9, the definition of disruption for removal of an attendee. Again, this is subjective and is opening us up to a First Amendment violation. And then in communicating with media, a board member has the right to speak to the media as their First Amendment right. So I just have some major concerns on First Amendment violations, both for the public and board members, and would like to see these revisited.
Okay, so thank you for the input. Do you have those written down that can be passed along? Okay, thank you. So, okay, thank you. I'm going to come back down. Jeff, any questions, comments, sir?
I imagine we'll have some good conversation, but I'm listening. I'm all ears, ready to go.
Terry. Oops, Terry.
And come back to me.
Okay. Mute your mic. Crystal.
I would like to agree on a couple of Kayla's points. The working towards consensus, I do feel like, although we do want to work together as a team and do what's best for our school district, working towards consensus is the wording is a little bit, I think, off. I think taking that consensus word out would maybe make it a little bit, it's okay to not agree on everything. It's okay to be a 4-3 split decision. And I think if that word consensus is in our board operating procedures, it might appear that we're trying to squash differing opinions. I also wanted to agree with including all grades in the reading and math. She was talking really fast, I was trying to take notes. The remove that elementary word, and then the board goals, I did have a question. So those were from our team of 8 training. Did we agree, that was a while ago, did we agree on a certain order, or that it was, and so I don't worry about moving things to the top because I think they were all important and all took priority, because we discussed that for quite a bit of time to come up with those goals. So I think there's not one that's prioritized over another. I think that was it from what Caleb said, but I would like to see that in writing because you did go through them really quick.
I agree with I would like to see the goal of where it says elementary to be, however it was worded with reading and math. I'd like to see that be all grades. And I agree, it was very fast. I know you had some valid points. So I'd like to see that in email or something so I could kind of digest it and understand it a little better, because there were, you did have some valid points that I hadn't necessarily honed in on.
Coming back to Terry.
Right. I don't see it in here specifically, but I know we've discussed it some, and that is when we receive an email from anyone that's directed at all board members, that when one of us replies to that email, that everyone is copied, so we are aware of what the reply was, and that that particular board member will take the lead in the communication with that party. I know that we recently received a communication from a taxpayer as labeled as signed by such. And we wouldn't normally reply to someone that doesn't list their name, but one of us replied to that email and only included 2 other board members and not all of us, so we were aware that there was a response made. So I don't know if that's something we can add in the communication piece in here.
I think there's some concern that if you add more than 2 board members onto an email, that it could be considered a quorum. And so maybe we could get some legal advice from our attorney that are we allowed to all be on one email without it being a quorum?
Well, technically, we're not conducting business in that email. It was a response.
I agree with that. I was just, the way I've interpreted it is that we can all be on an email as long as we are not discussing how we're going to vote for something. It wouldn't be a walking quorum, but to have it cleared up by an attorney might be helpful.
Okay, great discussion. So, first of all, just to reset, I have a motion and a second on the floor. I have heard a number of inputs with some recommended changes. I know personally I like to see the final product in hand before I consider something, so I'm extending that to the rest of you all as well. So, again, we have a motion and a second. At this point, we need to address that or amend that motion. I'll consider either one of those.
So can I, go ahead.
The fact that we have a motion on the table, we have to do one of those 2. If our ultimate goal is to see an updated set of procedures that we all can feel more comfortable with.
So would an option be to withdraw my motion and table this until next month when we see the edits?
That is an option.
That is what I would like to do.
Okay. So the motion to approve the Godley ISD Board operating procedures will be withdrawn. I heard a number of recommendations from Kayla, some additional recommendations from others. If those can be provided to Dr. Deere for some updates, and then we will circulate. Again, keep in mind, from my position, I'd like to make sure that we have a good set of operating procedures, so I really wouldn't want this to drag on for months and months of going round and round on the board procedures. So ideally, we'll get those ironed out over the next few weeks so that we can review and come to some set that we can approve in the next month.
Can I just want to clarify something?
Yes, sir.
If we were looking at some of these different suggestions or modifications, is it okay to communicate via email about some, like if she emails?
Communicate directly with me, so there's
okay,
no...
communicate, all right.
Just communicate with me.
Correct.
Okay, well then I would second.
Yes, sir.
Where's this motion?
Motion was withdrawn.
No, I thought she meant, I'm sorry.
No, she withdrew the motion. That's okay. I think we're in alignment. Okay, that is all for the agenda. I do not have topics for close this evening, so...
I'll motion to adjourn.
8:09, we are adjourned. Okay.